Now that we have the glove box liner out, in order to locate the four-way flasher and the turn signal flasher, we set them both off. And we will start with the four-way flasher. So we'll turn the four ways on and we'll listen.
Where are the four-way flashers?
On the steering column.
Yeah, I had to ask. Right here, there's a teeny little pull thing out. You pull it out. Now
and
they're
on the backup camera, you can see the red lights flashing. And listen and hear it clicking. And then I can follow the clicking. And I found it. I was expecting this to be further up in the top center of the dash based upon the photograph I took of the car when it was apart. But clearly when it was put back together, the wiring was moved in such a way that this got moved down into a more accessible area. So we're going to turn off the four ways now since we found it. And I'm going to go ahead and remove it from the wiring harness by simply unplugging it from its connector. Let me just light on that.
You don't need the light, it's just that your hands are blocking it. Yeah.
It's a very simple two-prong connector. I'm sorry my hands are in the way, but that is what they look like. They're 90 degrees from each other. Very simple. And the new flasher for both the four-way and another one for the turn signal is this electronic one with 90-degree terminals plus a ground terminal wire. So I'll plug this in. And for the moment, I'm not going to bother with the ground strap. I will do that once I have found the turn signal flasher.
Oops. Sorry about that.
You can kill it and restart. Actually, before I started looking for the turn signal flasher to replace it, I thought it might be good to test the four-way flasher to both make sure it's working and to demonstrate how important it is for this ground strap to be in place. So I'll have Linda turn on the four-way flashers, and the switch has been pulled out, but there's no action. Now I'm going to take this ground lead and touch it to ground and watch and listen. Now we have four-way action. You can tell from the backup camera display that the lights are flashing in the back. And this electronic flasher actually has a sound emitting from it similar to an old style thermal flasher. Not all electronic flashers do that. Now, as soon as I disconnect the ground, that will stop working. It's that important to make sure these ground straps are in place. Okay, now back to the hunt for the turn signal switch. It takes a little effort to find these flashers. In this case, we had some work done to the car during the restoration, and the turn signal flasher moved a little bit from where it normally would be. I couldn't find it, but Linda did. So what she's going to do is in front of her on the floorboard is a new flasher. You see a new flasher down there? Find it?
No, that's the old one. Oh, that's that the new one?
Yeah.
That's the new one.
Yeah. She is hopefully going to be able to reach up inside the dash,
You didn't tell us doing that.
unplug the turn signal flasher and plug that one in without losing the ground wire.
Let me show you a picture of where it is.
Okay, she's going to get this up inside.
Okay, so I've got a little mirror here with the light. A reverse mirror. Now I gotta find the mirror on this thing. There's the mirror, and then if you can see the little circular thing you told me I was looking for, that is it buried up there.
Is it aluminum or is it yellow?
It's aluminum. But the wires are so tight, I can't pull it down. I don't want to break anything.
No,
So,
but you should be able to, with one hand, separate the connector from the base of the unit.
okay, we're going to turn this off now because we're not going to do this on
Okay, we're going off camera for the moment as Linda struggles with this. We'll be back. Okay, we finally found the turn signal flasher.
Who found it?
Linda found it.
Thank you.
And it was not where it normally would be. Normally it is up just above the glove box liner. In this case, we had the car restored and some of the wiring was tied back out of the way, and to get some of it unrouted, I ended up having to cut one of these wire ties deep up inside the dash with a very small set of wire cutters. It gave me enough room to where I can pull this down enough to disconnect it from the harness. You should not be running into this kind of grief when you go to replace your turn signal flasher. But if you do, you turn your key to run position, turn on a turn signal, and listen and feel up inside the loom here until you find it. You'll find it. If we can find it, if Linda can find it, you should be able to. So to replace it, it's the same exact kind of unit as used for the turn signal flasher.
Identical, actually.
So I'm going to unplug it, which might take some wiggling back and forth.
And the turn signals stopped working. So we know for sure that's it.
I align the spade terminals and plug it in. And now to test it, similar to what I did for 4-ways, I will temporarily ground this connection.
Much faster blinker.
And now it's blinking. Okay, we're going to go off camera as I start putting the glove box liner back in place. Test some other circuits, make sure I didn't pull any wires that shouldn't have been pulled. And then when I get ready to screw these ground wires in for the 2 flasher units, we'll show you where that is going to be grounded to and make sure everything works before we button things up. Okay, we'll be back. A couple of things to cover in this video. Linda had asked if these 2 grounding terminals can both be attached to the same ground at the same time. And the answer is yes, which then begs the question, well, how do you know that? Well, these are what are called negative ground. They go to any wire connected to the frame or body of the car, or to the negative terminal or wire connecting the negative terminal with what's called a negative grounded car. Negative ground is common throughout the entire vehicle. If they're both going to be connected to ground, it doesn't matter if they're separate or together, as long as it makes for good ground. That's okay. So now the question is, where are we going to ground it? My first thought was I could ground it to one of the screws that we used for this liner being retained up here. This one will reach. This one doesn't. This one reaches the left side, but this one, it'd be a really, really tight fit. I could do it, but it's going to be tighter than I like. So I'll take mine out of the middle, split the difference. There's a little bracket here that's used by the glove box lock to latch onto. And at either end, there is a small Phillips screw. Very small. And it's adjustable in and out, back and forth. I'm gonna loosen one of them and put both these ground straps underneath it, tighten it down, and then tuck this wire up out of the way so it doesn't get messed with accidentally as we get things in and out of the glove box itself. That's the objective. Now there's another way I could do it. up here somewhere there's a small hex bolt holding this piece of the dash.
Left. There's a couple of them.
And it attaches this to another piece of the frame for the dash. But I don't feel like using that because it's still a bit of a reach for the turn signal flasher ground. I like these two better. Of these two, I'm going to use one to the left. It's a little bit shorter for the four-way flasher. Now it's important I don't loosen both because then I could affect the adjustment of depth for this little catch unit for the glove box. I don't want to have to readjust this. If I loosen it a little bit, don't push it real hard or anything. It should hold the adjustment. We'll find out. Oh boy, that's tight. Ah. Okay, I got it loosened. Turn signal ground wire is in place, but it's not enough room to get the four-way flasher in place, so I'll loosen it a little bit more. I'm sorry if my hands are getting in the way. I don't have a whole lot of room to work in. Okay, I believe I have them both in place. We'll see if there's a good reason for that belief in a moment. I'll go ahead and tighten this back up.
Flasher's going. Nope, flasher's, oh, there it goes again. It's going on and off. There we go.
Make it nice and tight like it had been.
Okay.
And Linda observed the flasher is once again working.
I turned the flasher off. I'm going to do the four-ways now. Four-ways are going.
And test the turn signal again.
Turn signal.
Perfect. Okay. Well grounded, secure. I gotta tuck these flashers up out of the way once again.
But will the glove box close?
The glove box.
Oh, you gotta do the
I
liner.
gotta do the liner still. I'll put that in place and then I'll come back and I'll show the glove box opens and closes.
Okay.
Okay, the glove box liner is back in place. 3 sheet metal screws in the bottom. 1 at the top right and 1 at the top left. They're all secure. That's in place. I made sure that the four-way flasher and turn signal flasher are tucked up out of the way. And the ground wires I have tucked up out of the way. Now Linda might be able to get in there and get a close-up of that. Maybe. Now for anybody really observant, you notice there's another wire that looks out of place. Along the bottom where the hinge is, there's a wire, a black wire. What would that be for? I installed a webcam on this vehicle soon after we got it, so that in the event there was anything that happened, I'd have a video record of it. This end runs down behind the center console to power and ground. This end comes up along the side, outer side of the dash. There's a small wire way back in here you can't see. And then behind here, there's tucked a wire. You see it pop out the top here, runs along the top here, out of the way visually, down to the dash cam. And that's how we have that thing wired. and pretty much out of the way visually. It's pretty hard to see unless someone knows what they're looking for. But anyway, this wire is run at the base of the glove box door. There's a lot of room between it and the framing, and I can close and open without any damage to the wire. Glove box is now working the way it should, closing properly, finished off pretty nice. I could play with the adjustment, pull it a little tighter if I really wanted to, but I'm not going to bother. This car's 47 years old. Why screw with it? So the few things that were in the glove box, paperwork, insurance papers, I'll put back in. That's all we put in there. Anything that's heavier than a couple of papers goes in the center console, where we have things like garage door openers, some other electronic equipment, USB extensions and stuff like that. Okay, unless Linda has any questions to ask or wants to test the flashers once again with the glove box door, I'm done. Turn signals are working.
Again, I learned where the four-way flashers were. I didn't realize this did that. Look at that.
And everything is working with the new electronic flashers. I hope that spares someone some grief as far as where to look for those things back up inside the dash. If your car hasn't been restored or worked with up under the dash, you should be able to find those flashers pretty quick. Okay, where to buy the flashers? VintageLEDs.com, VINTAGES.com. They sell them for less than I've seen them anywhere else for a nice set of electronic flashers, just like the ones we used for this vehicle. So with that, we're done.